You are listening to Dove Valley Deep Divers with Erick Trickel
and Lance Sanderson.
Ball comes out of the hands of Newton. It's on the ground, picked up by T.J. Ward at the 4-yard line. Vaughn Miller did it again.
On Overtime Media.
And it looks like we are live. Mile high hello, everybody in Broncos country, and welcome into another episode of the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. I'm your host, Lance Sanderson, and joining me, as always, as per usual, is your Denver Broncos insider and Mile High Huddle senior NFL draft analyst, my good friend and colleague, the one and only Erick Trickel. Erick, this is kind of a unique podcast episode for us because we get to do some post-game coverage, man. The Broncos went into MetLife Stadium last night against the New York Jets, the lowly New York Jets, in what I mistakenly called not necessarily a trap game. I got some things to say to you about that. But no, they went in and handled business. And even with quarterback Brett Rypien making his first career start, former undrafted free agent out of Boise State, the Broncos looked good. They really did. They were bailed out a lot by the Jets with some stupid, unnecessary roughness penalties.
No, let's call it what it was. It's Greg Williams' BS coaching that is consistently dirty, consistently taking cheap shots. That's what Greg Williams is. That's what he's always done. Yeah. That's what it was.
Yeah, but still, I mean, the Broncos were not really bailed out, but they took advantage of a lot of things that the Jets were doing, just stupid, boneheaded mistakes, which is something that you and I have had kind of issues with the Broncos going back over the first 3 weeks of the season. Those self-inflicted wounds, you know, the bad coaching decisions, the not winning one-on-one matchups, up front, and whenever those opportunities do arise. But still, the Broncos actually took advantage of the Jets' mistakes. Brett Rypien played very well in the first half, had a kind of an up and down second half with those 2 interceptions. But still, man, it was kind of fun to actually get to watch the Broncos win a game. But before we get to that, man, how are we doing? How was your week? Obviously, we had the Tampa Bay game too as well. So it's been kind of an interesting last 7 days for the Dove Valley Deep Divers. Anyways, what's up, man?
Hey, this last week has been crazy. On top of the Tampa Bay game and then the short week, having to get my grades up and everything like that, by Monday night, basically, I've been sitting there working on my scouting stuff. I've been working on getting my list together and everything like that. Happy to announce that I'm down to the offensive line is where I'm at now, and then I have the whole defense, but making progress on it, continuing to make progress on it. And then it's been a very exhausting week. Man, These short weeks are absolutely kill me. Since, I mean, a lot of stuff that I do for Mile High Huddle is time-sensitive stuff. I mean, people don't want to hear about recapping a Week 3 game after the Week 4 game has been played. So it's been very exhausting, but I'm super excited that we actually get to talk about a game like within 24 hours of it actually ending.
Right,
like,
that's the best part.
So nice.
It does, to where we can actually be the ones to break down the game. Obviously, you had the gut reaction last night with Chad and Zach, and I missed that episode. I haven't got a chance to go check that out. But if you guys do head on over to wherever you get your podcast, check out the gut reaction piece, and then I'm going to do so as well. But to be able to talk about a Broncos win, the first win of the season, and I hate to say it like this, but the Broncos absolutely had to win that game. Like, there was no excuse for them. Wow. They came into this with a bunch of –
they wanted Trevor Lawrence. They didn't.
Well, right. 0-3, there's a lot of things that you can say about this Broncos team. They could be sitting at 2-1 heading into this game. A couple of quick coaching decisions, like the 4th-and-1 decision to run the shovel pass to Jake Butt against the Titans. If they kick a field goal there, the Broncos walk away with the victory. I mean, they lost by 1 point on a last-second field goal. If they kick the field goal there, they win by 2. If you have some better play calling, better execution up front, 3rd and 2, 4th and 2 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're talking about the Broncos having an opportunity to win that game as well. And I mean, obviously, with all the injuries against Tampa Bay, that was expected they were going to lose that game. But a couple of quick bounces the right way. Denver's heading into this game at 2-1 against the lowly New York Jets, who have a rash of injuries going on themselves. I mean, they played 3 left tackles last night against the Broncos. So, and they also have one of the worst rosters in the NFL. That's why I kind of said it was. That's why I kind of said it was like a pseudo trap game, because everybody said the Broncos are done. Like they're gonna walk in, they're gonna lose this game. I mean, Vegas had them at a 1-point favorite. There were some places that had the Broncos as the Jets as a favorite. You had multiple people in the national and the local media saying that the Broncos were going to lose this game to the Jets on the short week because they're starting a third-string quarterback. It's not a trap game in the sense of that, but they could have fell into this media trap. Like they really could have, and then said, oh, well, woe is me. We're going to go out and have a bad game play down to the Jets level. But fortunately, the Broncos came out and they really kind of dominated that game. The score was 37-28, but really the Broncos were in control of that game outside of the first drive for the Jets. And after, the two fourth quarter interceptions from Brett Rypien, Denver was really in control of that game for the majority of it. Like, They came out and they dispelled this narrative that they're a bad team and that the Jets were going to be able to hang up with them, even though the Broncos are missing 5 key starters on both sides of the football. They're down their franchise quarterback, their number 1B running back, their top wide receiver, their top pass rusher. They lost another great pass rusher in Jarrell Casey. Like, the chips were against them, and they went out and they showed everybody that we're not dead. We're not dead yet. Don't count us out. It may be just one victory, and next week they got the New England Patriots, and that's going to be a tough game for them. But if they can steady this ship and go into the game against Kansas City in Week 7 at 3-3 or 2-4, they're still alive. There's a lot of life left in this team.
Yeah, my ongoing joke entering this game was that the Denver Broncos, due to injuries, are playing their JV squad.
Yeah.
The New York Jets are playing their JV squad because they just lack the talent. And it showed out there. And one thing that definitely was the case is that I think that the biggest difference is Brett Rypien almost lost the Broncos this game, guys.
He did.
Like, he made enough plays to help them win it, but he also nearly cost them that.
Yeah.
But the biggest difference is I think that there was a huge difference in quality of coaching.
Yeah.
And the Broncos, there was that cheap shot on Garrett Bowles that I think that he really wanted to take Alec Ogletree's head off for, and he didn't. He kept his cool. I think that the Broncos, they stayed disciplined. They played within themselves, and there is no doubt that if the Jets did the same thing, Broncos probably lose because they're not getting bailed out with the penalties they did.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely.
So that's one big difference there, and that really reflects on the coaching, and I already took my shot at Greg Williams, and I'll take another one again, is this guy is probably one of the dirtiest coaches to currently be in the NFL, and this was even before Bountygate he was considered dirty.
Bountygate was a thing, too, so...
There are players who played for him that have talked about how he would bring in the medical reports and be like, oh, this guy's dealing with a knee injury, go hit him in the knee. Like, he would sit there and he would do that. And then it became known that it was about Bountygate, playing the bounties out there. Like, he's just a terrible coach. Adam Gase is a terrible coach. It was just frustrating to watch because there was unneededly players put at risk because of the Jets coaching. But guys, before we really get into digging into this game, we do got some matters of business first. And the first one being is tonight's live stream podcast is brought to you by sportsbetting.com. Broncos country, gambling is now legal in the state of Colorado, as everybody now knows. And here's what makes sportsbetting.com a no-brainer for sports fans. Sharp odds and low juice. They have in-house bookmakers, and they're not a third-party provider of odds. Reduced juice, best prices. Hassle-free bonuses, one-time rollover, means the bonus money is yours after you bet it one time. Other sites range from 5 to 30 times. 24/7 live customer support always is a real person in the U.S. Here's the kicker. At sportsbetting.com, you get a 100% risk-free week of sports betting up to $500. Not just one bet, but all of your bets. Play for a week, and if your losses exceed your winnings, at the end of the week, sportsbetting.com will cover 100% of the difference up to $500 with a one-time rollover. So head on over now to www.sportsbetting.com/milehighhuddle. That's www.sportsbetting.com/milehighhuddle and capitalize on a risk-free week of sports betting up to $500.
Yeah, I really want to kind of go over and check some of that stuff out. I'm not a huge sports bettor, but at the same time, with everything they've got going on sportsbetting.com, I'm kind of intrigued to see how this actually works. I got to get some spare cash to be able to do something like that. But anyways, guys, you are watching the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. You guys can follow us at DVDD _ pod, excuse me. That's the podcast account. Easiest way to keep in touch with what's going on with your Dove Valley Deep Divers. You can follow me at Sanderson MHH and for Erick at Erick Trickel. Also, guys, while you're at it, follow at Mile High Huddle for instant news and analysis, film articles, opinion articles, breakdowns of your Denver Broncos. It's also the easiest way to keep up with what's going on with the entire Huddle Up podcast network, including obviously the Huddle Up pod. You have Bill Building the Broncos with Nick and Carl, and then Mile High Insiders with Nick and Luke as well on Saturdays. If you guys are in a position financially, just a gentle reminder here, head on over to huddleuppod.com. Get yourself a hat, get yourself a t-shirt. There's a coffee cup, a face mask, hoodies, something for the guys, something for the girls. There's even a onesie for your babies if you want to get something like that going. Anything to suit your fancy. And if not, the three things that you guys can do, that everybody can do, and everybody should be doing as well. Subscribe wherever you guys are watching this podcast, whether it's live on YouTube, live on Facebook, if you get it on Twitter, on Twitch, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is you get your podcast, subscribe to Mile High Huddle. Like every video and every podcast that you guys see. It's the easiest way to help us expand the show. And if you really like it, share it. Share it to everybody. Again, that's one of the easiest. Those are the three easiest things you can do to help the Huddle Up Podcast Network continue to grow and continue to get into as many into as many Broncos fans as humanly possible.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Broncos country, listen up. Coors Seltzer isn't your average seltzer. Rooted in Coors' long history of sustainability, is a brand that was inspired by a generation that wants to do good in the world with a mission to restore America's rivers. Coors Seltzer is launching the world's easiest volunteer program, so whatever you're doing, by simply cracking open a can of Coors Seltzer, you're volunteering. Listen, gang, our waterways are at risk. 80% of America's rivers are drying up. Through a partnership with Change the Course, Coors Seltzer is helping to protect and restore America's rivers. Here's how it works. Each pack of Coors Seltzer restores 500 gallons of fresh water to U.S. rivers and the communities that depend on them. And the results? They'll blow your mind. 1 billion gallons of water restored to 16 river basins across the U.S., and that's just year one. And gang, there are 4 refreshing flavors, 1 cool cause. So enjoy naturally flavored black cherry, mango, lemon lime, and grapefruit. And the specs are in. Coors Seltzer is 4.5% ABV, and it's only 90 calories. And Zach, let me tell you, I've got my eye on that black cherry.
Yeah, it's nothing better, Chad. The weather's turning. It's getting cooler. It's football season. Nothing better than kicking back with a Coors. I like the mango personally, but they're all pretty good. Nothing better, Chad.
Join the world's easiest volunteer program by simply drinking Coors Seltzer. You can become a volunteer and restore America's rivers. You buy Coors Seltzer, you help restore 500 gallons of water into America's rivers. It's that simple. So visit CoorsSeltzer.com to find a Coors Seltzer near you. That's CoorsSeltzer.com.
For every 12-pack sold through 8/31/2021, Coors will purchase services from Change the Course to restore 500 gallons of fresh river water. Details at CoorsSeltzer.com. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Now, Eric, we're going to break this game down, and I'm going to start, obviously, with Brett Rypien. And like I said, a former undrafted free agent. He was on the practice squad, been cut by the Broncos a couple of times to get put on the practice squad, called up after Drew Lock went down with that sprained AC joint in his throwing shoulder, and it sounds like he's going to be able to get to start a second game here soon, depending on what the health of Drew Lock is. Now, Vic Fangio got a chance to sit down in front of the media today, and he said, quote, Drew is, I think, 50-50 to make it this week, and I'm being totally honest with that statement. We'll see how he progresses here during the week and see where he's at, close quote. And the immediate follow-up question was, if Lock is not good to go, is Brett Rypien going to start? And Vic was very one-word answer, yes. So, Brett Rypien, let's break it down here really fast. In the first half, 8 of 11 for 141 yards, a touchdown, and a costly interception to Pierre Desir on a very boneheaded mistake. It was that's a ball that has to end up 10 rows deep in the stands. Like there's no window for you to try to squeeze it in there, especially with Rypien's lack of arm strength, lack of athletic ability. I mean, he's going to turn into a great coach one of these days, very high football acumen. But for a guy that has a high football acumen, a high football IQ, that was a mistake that you just can't have. Even being a young quarterback in your first career start, you've got to know to throw the football away, man. Eric, I want you to kind of break this down for us. What did you think of Rypien in the first half? Did he actually show enough to be like a capable and a competent backup quarterback, or was this just kind of a flash in the pan?
It's hard to say. It was one game. But Brett Rypien went out there, and he was exactly who I figured he would be. There was those issues on those deep balls. I mean, that one touchdown to Jerry Jeudy, thankfully that was Jerry Jeudy, because that's probably an interception otherwise.
Yeah.
And then there was the boneheaded interception in the first half where he just should have thrown it out of bounds, try to make something out of there. His arm's not great, and it showed that. even the touchdown pass to Tim Patrick was it was put at risk because he couldn't put enough velocity on that ball. Timing was great, but I mean, it just didn't have the velocity, and the defensive back was still able to get its fingertips on it. So it's kind of rough because in the first half he did play really well, and then the Jets figured out how to trick him with his eyes with what he was seeing pre-snap, and they took advantage of that and picked off 2 interceptions. One they took back to the house, and as I said earlier, is he dang near lost the Broncos this game because of his play. And the good news is that he made just enough passing plays for the Broncos for it to pan out and for them to come back and win. But it was just rough. I mean, Tim Patrick bailed him out on a couple passes. Jerry Jeudy obviously on that one deep touchdown. One thing I would say though is that I absolutely loved it that he stood in there and he took the hits. That's fantastic to see. On one of the interceptions, we were talking about this pre-show, and pressure was right in his face, and he's just staring down one receiver, staring down the right side, and you can't have that, especially if you have the detriments that Brett Rypien brings to the table. You can't cut your field in half and limit it to one side. One of the interceptions, he had Tim Patrick wide open for what would have been a first down. All he had to do was make a slight adjustment with his positioning in the pocket, reset his feet, and make the throw. Another time, he just had to peel his eyes off of Jerry Jeudy, peel him inside. He'd see Tim Patrick again for what would have been another first down. So both plays definitely could have been better. They're plays that I have no doubt they're going to be looking at over this mini bye week and be like, hey, look, this is what you did wrong. Do this better. You can do this better, and lay it out for him. Hopefully he's able to play up to the competition against the New England Patriots. Because there's no doubt that I know that this isn't the New England Patriots of the dynasty with Tom Brady, but they're still a really good football team and a really good defense. And if he throws 3 interceptions, Bill Belichick will not let the Broncos come back from that.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
No, absolutely not. And like you said, Rypien was up and down. I was pretty impressed with the first half. And honestly, even on that throw, the Tim Patrick touchdown throw, I thought that was a dime. I mean, he understood his limitations. He knew exactly, threw some anticipation, put it in the perfect spot where only Tim Patrick could catch the ball. I mean, like you said, the defensive
back got his hand on it.
It got his hand on it. He got some fingertips on it is really what it was.
And Tim Patrick almost didn't catch it.
It was still a pretty decently placed throw. The velocity wasn't there, but still, I was pretty impressed.
It was. The only issue is the velocity.
Yep. There was actually another throw. I think it was before that to Tim Patrick for it was a pretty big game, 28, 29 yards, 30 yards, something like that, where Rypien dropped it right in the bucket. Down the right sideline. That's a tough throw to make, really good coverage, and Rypien just put it right on the money. Like he was impressive for what he was, but at the same time, it's not going to be anything you can sustain as a long-term level. Now, before we get going, guys, I see Bawana here, John, running through some of the people saying hello. And I just want to give a shout out really fast to one Dave Darlington. And he says, hey gang, sure feels good to win one, even with all of the mistakes. I won't be on today. I'm out celebrating our 38th anniversary and I'll catch it on the replay. Dave, happy anniversary to you and the missus. That's amazing, man. 38 years is a long time. Proud of you and your family. And you guys have a wonderful night, man. Just go out there, have some fun, and enjoy yourselves. Like you guys earned it. That's an amazing, amazing accomplishment. Congratulations, guys! Happy anniversary from the Dove Valley Deep Divers. Now, there's a couple of super chats.
Real quick, and I think I could speak on everybody on all the podcasts and the Mile High Huddle whole staff and everything like that. Is that we all wish you a happy anniversary and congratulations, and just enjoy your time.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Now let's say hello to the rest of the chat. Got Jeff coming in here, Toy Mafia. What's up, my dude, Derek Wright? Obviously, Bawan is doing his thing. What's up, Stu? How we doing, buddy? Kenneth Booker joining the show. Been a minute since we got to see you, Kenneth. What's up, buddy? Richie Rich in here. Miller 707 Champ. Blake Williams. Mr. Castillo as well. Todd Anderson. It was a nice TD pass to Jerry Jeudy. It was an underthrown ball, and Jerry Jeudy made a hell of a catch is what it was. Got some super chats. I'm going to grab these really fast. First things first from Levi, $10 super. Hey, fellas, hope everyone is doing great. We're doing great, man. Thanks for joining the show. Let's see here. Jordan Johnson coming in here. Jordan, what's up, man? Been a minute since we got to see your face as well. Hey, guys, maybe Rypien should teach our tight ends how to block. That helped Gordon score, and I liked the effort I saw. Actually, you know what, Jordan? Let's break this down really fast. That touchdown run that Melvin Gordon had to close out the game, essentially, we were watching that prior to the show going live.
Andrew Beck is the hero.
Man,
Andrew Beck is the god on this play.
This is amazing. He actually picks off 4 guys in one block, literally. So Cushenberry gets owned. Graham Glasgow gets owned. Andrew Beck's going in on a lead block on an inside zone and picks off 4 guys. He just spreads his arms out as wide as he can, grabs a hold of Graham Glasgow's back, and just stands there and gets his body wrecked. He gets blown back and blows Melvin Gordon. It was Eric, go ahead, man. It was awesome.
It was a beautiful play from Beck because, as he said, Lloyd Cushenberry and Graham Glasgow, they weren't able to seal the hole, and they had their both defensive linemen that were on them, and they had 2 linebackers crashing inside into the hole as well. And if Andrew Beck doesn't sacrifice his body, he couldn't get in there early enough because Graham Glasgow was pushed right into his pathway to get the lead block. So he had to adjust himself. He grabs onto Glasgow's back, looks like he grabs onto Cushenberry as well, and just holds on as 4 Jets players are trying to push through these 3 Broncos players. And Melvin Gordon took that time to cut it outside, and I think it was one of the receivers, Jake Butt, actually made a good block on the outside to help him seal the edge, and then Brett Rypien blocked exactly how you want your quarterbacks to block on plays like that. He didn't engage him. He just threw his back into it and blocked the runway for the defender, and that's all you want. It gave Gordon enough time to be able to get in there for the touchdown. It was beautiful and just beautiful from Beck, Rypien, and Gordon, and Bud a little bit too.
What wasn't beautiful on that, and this is going back to the
Cushenberry
from Jordan Johnson. First off, Cushenberry, DeMar Dodson had a really great seal block on the right side as well.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But the point that Jordan's trying to make here is teaching the tight ends how to block. Nick Van Nett got absolutely destroyed on that play. Yes. He allowed the defender to cross his face and actually got away with an illegal block in the back. That play should have been called back.
So guys,
he literally goes straight back in, both hands in between the numbers and pushes the defender. I don't know exactly who it was.
Into the back of Garrett Bowles.
Yep.
If you guys actually want to learn something really quick, we can't really pull it up for you guys, but you guys can go pull up this touchdown play and watch the feet of Jake Butt and Nick Van Nett and watch the difference of them. Jake Butt's first step is a half step forward. It's able to get him into proper positioning to seal off the edge from the edge, or seal off the corner from the edge defender. Whereas Nick Van Nett, he takes a step back to the outside and allows the whole inside lane to the running back, which is why he lost. There is no reason for him to take that step back. He should have had that half step forward, establish himself in the lane, and engaged head on the defender. And it was just terrible. I mean, it really comes down to that footwork from Nick Van Nett is why he failed that block.
Yeah, it's why he's been failing to block at an efficient level all season long. That false step backwards. Actually, one of the things that when I really started getting into the scouting stuff, what was it? I was into scouting as it was, but learning still a whole lot was when Mike Mayock was on the NFL Combine and they were watching George Kittle and the blocking drills, and he was calling out the guys that had that false step backwards at the tight end position, saying, if you want to be an effective blocker at the tight end position, especially against quicker edge defenders and guys coming off the cornerback blitz and stuff like that, you cannot have that false step backwards. And he highlighted that to George Kittle, and it's actually one of the things that I look for when scouting tight ends is, do they have a false step backwards in the running game? So if they do have that false step backwards, they're going to have limited success. They can still regain with some strengths and grip strength and stuff like that. But if they have that bad first step in the run in the blocking department, they're probably not going to be a very good blocker. Kenneth Booker coming in here with a super chat really fast. Were you as happy as me Vic Fangio decided to blitz? Now, Eric, this is another point of contention that you and I have had between each other over the last couple of weeks in just the Broncos' aggressiveness on the defensive side of the football. Now, I'm not saying the Broncos need to go out and blitz like they did against the Jets the other day, sending 5 and 6 guys all the time. I'm talking about getting a little bit more creative in your blitz packages and not only sending Alexander Johnson. maybe get some twists and stunts up front, send an extra guy off the edge, some cornerback pressure as well. You can see some stuff like that happening and developing for other teams across the NFL and creating some mismatched scenarios for offensive line, for at least specifically for the Broncos offensive line. I want to see some more aggressiveness in that aspect. However, I want you to kind of explain to Kenneth Booker here what happens when Vic Fangio decides that he's going to bring some extra rushers, and what happens to his coverage units, please.
So real quick, some stats about that is they rushed 5 or more on 22 of the 56 dropbacks the Jets had last night. That is the most in Vic Fangio's tenure as with the Broncos, and the rate of 39.3% is also his highest. And 4 of the 6 sacks came on the 5-man rush. The issue is that it's a double-edged sword, and this is one of the big reasons why Denver's got to find that balance. Because when you're blitz, you're taking an extra rusher out of the coverage. And then we saw this last night. Denver would blitz Alexander Johnson, or they'd blitz Josie Jewell. And we also got to talk about the fact, too, that there were times where Denver was only rushing 3 initially, and that 4th man was one of the linebackers taking them out of the thing, which the sets that I read off don't cover. So you're still limiting them. I mean, you still have 7 guys in coverage, but you're taking away a guy in the middle of it. There were times where Sam Darnold just made the quick throw and beat the blitz. That's the easiest way to do it. Denver got lucky there towards the end because they were able to rattle him enough, and he held onto the ball a lot longer, and it helped make the blitz a little bit more effective. But early on, second quarter and early third quarter, when they were blitzing, they were falling on the sword more so than the Jets were. It finally came around to start biting the Jets in the butt, which is a good thing. And the biggest thing is if you really want to blitz and be more aggressive with the blitz, you need your coverage guys to be able to hold up. And I think that when the Broncos blitz starting to be more effective as well, when I was watching back the game earlier today, I noticed that the guys in the secondary were doing a little bit better. This was after Asang Basi was pulled out of the game. Bryce Callahan moved to the slot, which I think is great because Bryce Callahan showed that he can't handle at the outside as well. And then Devontae Bosby was thrown in. I think that those aspects all played into the blitz being more effective. Yeah. I don't want to see it at the same rate, but I think 20 to 25% is a good rate for the Broncos to blitz on.
Yeah.
And not always Alexander Johnson. That is my biggest pet peeve, is that like 99% of the blitzes that the Broncos run is Alexander Johnson blitzing.
And he's always blitzing the A-gap.
He only blitzes the A-gap. And the whole point of blitzing is that you want to catch the quarterback off guard. And if you're just blitzing the same player to the same gap every single time, you're not hiding anything. You're not adding any mystery to it. You're not confusing the quarterback because it's so easily to read and so predictable.
Yeah.
Hopefully they use this and use that to set up other blitzes later on, or the next few games especially, to sit there and find more effective blitzing.
Yeah, no, and that was, like I said earlier, Eric, I just wanted to kind of clear that up between you so where I can actually speak to you and not talk to you through a text, is I'm not necessarily saying that I want the Broncos to blitz 39% of the time. I'm saying when they do blitz and when they do get aggressive and they want to come after the quarterback, they got to be a little bit more creative. And I want to see some more aggressiveness in the creation of manufacturing pressure. You can manufacture some pressure against some teams by being creative in your twists and stunts, bringing an extra guy off the edge. Like, that's the aggressiveness that I want to see from Vic Fangio, specifically on the defensive side of the football. The offensive side of the football, completely, totally different thing. I actually really like what Pat Shurmur did last night. Let's just be honest there. There was a couple play calls where I was very, very curious about the rollout play in the red zone where Brett Rypien threw the ball 10 yards or 10 rows deep into the stands. And I know you specifically called out that play saying it was a terrible play call. You never run bootleg action in the red zone.
You don't ever. Yeah. And here's why. And for those of you guys watching, I'll just break this down a little bit, is when you're in the red zone, you're 20 yards from the goal line, then you have the 10 yards at the end zone. So you have 30 yards to work with and whatever it is, sideline to sideline, I can't remember off the top of my head. And then when you run a rollout, you're cutting that in half. Yep. You only have the 30 yards on the half that you roll out to. So it's already a compacted area, and you're just compacting it even more. Between the 20s, run bootlegs all you want because you have a lot more room to work with. As soon as you get to 20, take them all out of the playbook.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
The one point of contention I will say here is like a sprint right option, like you saw Peyton Manning run with Wes Welker. It's not necessarily a rollout. It's a 3-step, instead of a 3-step vertical drop, it's a 3-step horizontal drop, and then get the ball out quick on a rub route. You don't
do anything to cut the field in half.
That's a fair point.
With Peyton Manning, with a guy like quarterback like Peyton Manning, you can kind of make it work because of how smart he is.
Right.
With a quarterback like Brett Rypien, I understand he's smart, but he's so inexperienced.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that. I could trust it with Drew Lock a little bit because Drew Lock is a little bit more athletic and he has that threat of running it to kind of pull up the defenders a little bit. But with Brett Rypien, who seriously runs slower than I do, no.
Yeah. Cody Potter coming in here. We're going to grab a couple more super chats really fast and then continue on with our breakdown of the game. Cody Potter coming in here with a $10 super. Thanks, Cody, for joining us. Thank you for the donation. We appreciate that, man. He says, looking ahead, I like the Broncos versus the Pats. Cam Newton looks good versus terrible secondaries. 2 of the 3 teams had terrible secondaries at the time. As long as Fangio gets creative, we have a shot. The Pats D is not the 2019 Pats defense. Now, Cody, I do want to actually kind of point something out with you on this, and we'll get to this a little bit more here in a few minutes. The Broncos secondary is not exactly great. Let's be honest here. They're missing their top coverage cornerback. They have Michael Ojemudia, who actually had a really good game against the Jets. Asang Bassi got tortured by Jamison Crowder. And then when they actually did insert Devontae Bosby over Asang Bassi, that's where the Broncos coverage unit actually started to click a little bit better. Bryce Callahan has been really hit and miss. So I'm not saying that Cam Newton's going to have a lot more success against this Broncos secondary than anybody else, but let's be real here. They haven't exactly been great.
And there's the whole factor of that Cam Newton can take off and run.
Yeah.
And Denver has historically, especially the last few years, outside of that Super Bowl where they completely shut down Cam Newton, they kind of have struggled, I guess, against mobile quarterbacks like Cam Newton who can take off and run. So that's something to be concerned about as well. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what Vic Fangio does to cover him up. But there is one comment here that I do want to get to real quick, and it's Kenneth Peterson. He said, Donald and Locke both get slammed on their shoulder. One is out a few series and the other is out multiple weeks. Just saying. I'm not sure what you're just saying, but maybe you missed the news that Sam Darnold's probably going to miss a few weeks because they rushed him back into the game. And his shoulder injury is actually worse now because they rushed him back into the game. And that's because Adam Gase is a terrible coach who put his players at risk. Mekhi Becton is another one. And there was another player, too, a receiver that he rushed back out there and ended up getting seriously hurt as well.
Chris Hogan had a rib and a knee injury. He barely even played in the second half.
Yeah, and
there was another one, too.
And he just kind of forced Sam Darnold out there when Sam Darnold wasn't good enough to go. Even the medical staff said that he probably shouldn't go back out there and play, but Adam Gase did it anyways. And now they're probably going to be without Sam Darnold for probably at least 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, very similar to, the 3 or 4 weeks. I was going to say the 3 or 4 weeks that Drew Lock is going to miss.
And there's a less risk. And in the case of Drew Lock, there's a less case of the long-term damage done to it from playing him through the injury.
Yep. Stu McPeak here coming in. Zeus, what's up, my dude? $20 donation. Go Broncos. Thanks, guys, for the awesome pods. Hey, thank you for always being awesome and always supporting your Mile High Huddle and Huddle Up podcast network, man. We appreciate you, man. Now, let's see here. Where are we at? We actually kind of talked about this before we went to the show, and I want to ask you just one quick thing here. What did you see that Brett Rypien was looking at on that pick 6 to Pierre Desir? That was such a bad decision from him, and I'm not exactly sure. We watched it a little bit, and I want your kind of analysis on this. It seemed to me like Desir kind of sat on the route because you had Deshaun Hamilton running a go route on the outside, Jerry Jeudy with the inside out-breaking route. Desir just sat on the go and sat underneath and took advantage of a young quarterback. Am I wrong in that?
No, that's exactly right. And the thing is even without watching what Desir does on this, I mean, because you are right. Deshaun Hamilton's running a go route, and he just sits underneath. And he's reading the quarterback from about 5 yards after the snap, 5 yards downfield after the snap. Pierre Desir is completely watching Brett Rypien. He sees him wind up. He sees him staring down Jerry Jeudy, which he never should have gone at Jerry Jeudy before, because even before that, it's just a bad positioning with Jerry Jeudy and another defender. Safety's coming up, undercutting him. Just a bad, terrible design. Or decision by Brett Rypien to throw that ball. He should have peeled off, saw Tim Patrick, and made the throw there. But yeah, it's pure disservice. He just read Brett Rypien and just took advantage of his inexperience and the fact that he started staring down receivers, which was very noticeable in the second half.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, guys, the first half he actually looked pretty competent. The second half, Greg Williams adjusted, started bringing a little bit more complex pressure schemes. Let me rephrase that. Stopped bringing pressure schemes and went to more complex coverage schemes and started getting at Brett Rypien that way. The interior of the offensive line was absolutely atrocious. We'll get to that here in just a second. Now, let's go talk about Melvin Gordon here really fast. That play, obviously, where Andrew Beck was the hero. 43-yard touchdown run. Melvin Gordon kind of made something out of nothing there. But outside of that, I mean, he finished the game 23 carries, 107 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But prior to that one run, he had what? Let's see here. 22 carries for 61 yards prior to that long touchdown run and a carry on a 2.7 yards per carry average. It didn't seem necessarily like the running game was struggling as bad as it was because the Broncos went out and they made a concerted effort of continuing to stick with their running game, which is something that I've been kind of not really upset with, but just kind of it grinds my gears just a little bit that the Broncos, I mean, you go against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last week and Melvin Gordon only carries the ball 8 times. He had 12 total touches. That's not nearly enough for a guy you just went out and paid $16 million for. Now, Pat Shurmur understood the situations here. The Jets had the 24th ranked rushing defense coming into the game, allowing 133 yards per game on the ground. So the Broncos didn't even hit that average. But he made a concerted effort, knowing that he had a quarterback making his first start against I'm not going to call it a quality defense, but a difficult defense to navigate through, especially with Greg Williams. But he still made a concerted effort to continue to feed the ball to Melvin Gordon, and it paid up. It paid off in the long run. I mean, 117 yards on the ground, another 100-yard rushing game for this Broncos team. It was impressive. It really was. It didn't seem like the Broncos were only getting 2.7. I mean, Gordon had a couple of really nice runs there. He had some bad runs where he got stuffed at the line of scrimmage, but the 15-yard run, there was a 20-yard run, there was an 18-yard run, obviously the 43-yard touchdown run. Eric, what do you have to say about that?
Well, one thing is when you're running the ball, you want to keep running the ball because eventually you're going to spring one, and that's exactly what happened. Granted, it was because Beck, Rypien, and Melvin Gordon that it happened, but yeah. The biggest issue is that the interior offensive line, they were absolutely atrocious. They were getting absolutely no push in the running game, which against Quinnen Williams and Steve McClendon, who are both really good against the run, it's not shocking. Denver's biggest success was actually rushing to the right side or to the left side behind Garrett Bowles. He absolutely killed it as a run blocker. And they kept trying to run it behind DeMar Dotson, which was atrocious as well. I mean, there was a couple good run blocks that he had, but DeMar Dotson, he played much better than Elijah Wilkinson did as a pass blocker. There's no denying that. He only gave up 4 pressures, whereas Elijah Wilkinson was averaging what felt like 80 a game. But as a run blocker, Elijah Wilkinson definitely has the edge over DeMar Dotson. Yeah. It'd be nice if you just kind of could smush them together because you'd have a really good right tackle then.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Dotson, they just had issues there. It was very hit or miss with what they were getting, and it wasn't because of Gordon. It was because of what the offensive line was giving him in front of him. He was trying to take what was there. Sometimes he tried a couple runs there. He tried to make a little bit something happen when there was nothing. So that was something. I saw somebody say in the chat say that the interior offensive line can't have played that bad when they don't give up a sack to a first-time starter, or it can't be atrocious if they don't give up a sack to the first-time starter. And that's not true at all. This interior offensive line, they combined for, I want to say, like 15 total pressures, which on a first-time starter, especially one who's only 6'2" and who works best working the middle of the field, you can't be giving interior pressure. A couple of those interceptions were because he couldn't come off the outside guy and look inside because pressure was coming there on the inside. Both of those interceptions in the 2 and the 4 passing attempts are because, yes, he made a bad decision in the first play, but he couldn't come off of that read because there wasn't time, because the interior offensive line was right in his face. Both time Graham Glasgow, by the way.
No, the first one was actually Dalton Reisner. He got beat across his face and had that. That's right. So the first one, the 6 was on Dalton Reisner. The second interception, what was it? The interception, incomplete pass on the very next play that Brett Rypien threw the football. Graham Glasgow got put on skates and got pushed directly into Brett Rypien's lap, man. Like the interior of the offensive line played an absolutely atrocious football game. And I want to answer this kind of rebut this statement from Todd Anderson here, so I got to pull it up here. Noah Fant and Melvin Gordon are really the most consistent players on the offense, and I'm going to rebut that and say that, you know what, the one true consistent player that the Broncos have had on the offensive side of the football, he's been the best offensive player on this team as well. 72, man. Garrett Bowles has been spectacular this year. Absolutely spectacular.
He's been
every single game. He has been amazing. He had 0 pressures allowed against the Jets, guys. 0 pressures, no holding penalties. Again, he has 2 penalties against him called this year. One of them was a penalty that shouldn't have been called. It was a terrible call against Garrett Bowles.
It was perfect trap technique. Perfect.
It was just you gotta really kind of understand here. Just because you're not hearing about Garrett Bowles, that's probably the biggest reason as to why he's having as much success as he has. You don't have to talk about him anymore. There's not 3 holding penalties a game or whatever the heck. It's not nearly that bad, but you understand what I'm saying. He's actually playing amazingly consistent and very, very well. He's been the best offensive player for the Broncos this year, hands down. There's no question.
He's been far more consistent than both Noah Fant and Melvin Gordon. Noah Fant, I mean, not talking about what he does as a blocker because he's still got work to do there. But as a receiver, he's still having issues dealing with bracket coverage, and that's still able to take him out of the game. And until he deals with that, he can't be super consistent quarter to quarter, game to game, because teams are just knowing, hey, just bracket him. And then Malachi Robb, he's the one who made the comment earlier. He says, if a quarterback makes a better or quicker read in its success, you will give him an A+. Both those throws, Brett Rypien had the ball out in under 2.5 seconds, which is a really fast throw in the NFL. And both times pressure was right in his face. So it's not a thing of him making a better or quicker read. He just had no time to do either.
Yeah. What do they say? It's you got to have at least 2 seconds to get the ball out on average and have a passing play be successful. You need at least 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds. That's a lifetime to throw the football there. And you might be onto something there. Quicker read for Rypien there, getting his eyes turned back to the left side, because on both of those interceptions, Tim Patrick's coming across on a crossing route, and both times he is wide open. I mean, we're talking wide open, 3-4 yards of separation coming across the middle of the field without a safety over the top. Brett Rypien locked into his right side in the fourth quarter especially. But when he was distributing the ball to the left side of the football field, that's when the Broncos offense was actually clicking, and they were able to move the ball up and down the field on the Jets at will. Now, Brett Rypien has to be able to understand, okay, that right side is not there. Your next instantaneous read has to be that backside of the play. It has to be. But you're condensing. You're looking at one side of the formation, and you've got your route concept on the front side. The backside, especially if you have a single wide receiver on the backside of the play, you know he's going to be on a post, a crossing route, or an in route. And he's going to come on the backside of the play. So if there's nothing on your first read to the right side, to the front side of the play, you instantly have to turn your head and get back to the backside of the play, because typically that backside crossing route, that backside post route is going to be wide open. And it was on both of those plays. Yeah,
the issue is that he just didn't have time to reset.
Right.
I mean, he really didn't. On one of them, he could have rolled out to the left a little bit and reset. But on the other one, he could not move at all. He couldn't do anything. It was just terrible. It was a bad play on the offensive line. There are a couple other comments here in the chat that I wanted to get to. I'm not going to go looking through finding them. I saw somebody mention Albert Okwuegbunam and putting him in for Nick Vannett, and we kind of talked about this beforehand. I get the reasoning why you want to see Albert Okwuegbunam out there on the field, and I think that Denver can find a way to use him on about 5 snaps at most in a game. But it's going to be known as it's going to be a passing play.
Right.
So as bad as Nick Vannett is as a blocker, at least he's in the way. Albert Okwuegbunam just gets ran over. Yeah. He offers no upside as a blocker whatsoever. And putting him out there on the field, you take away the versatility of the offense, because guess what? You're not going to be running. And this is an offense that is already dealing with a bunch of issues. They don't need to be limited as it is just by personnel. It's also a possibility too that we're not seeing Albert Okwuegbunam because his hips may be still bothering him.
Right.
I don't know. But thing is that he's not to a point where you can use him consistently at all. He's a between the 20s seam stretcher, and that is it at the moment. He's got a lot of development to do before he can be anything more than that. Another comment I saw.
I want to just rebut on that really fast because I really want to see that size and the athleticism of Albert O in the red zone. Like
that actually be a pretty decent one too.
Throw him the ball up, throw the ball up to him, let him just go climb the ladder and go get it. Because he actually, super long, super big, very physical at the catch point, can jump very well as well. I want to see him in that kind of a situation, but
the issue is he can't turn.
That's very true.
He can't turn for the end zone. So, hey, just run to the back of the end zone, turn around. I'll just throw it up. You jump up and get it. That'll be about what it is.
I want to give a shout out really fast before we get moving on here. I believe this is the guy, Lonnie Stewart. Actually, I was in the grocery store earlier today, and Lonnie walked up to me and shook my hand, and he said, "Hey, I'm excited to see you guys go live, man." I was like, "What do you mean? The Broncos aren't playing? They played last night." He's like, "No, man, I know who you are. I watch you on YouTube every single week. So, Lonnie, what's up, man?" It's kind of nice to actually understand that there's some people out there that know who we are and want to come up and say, "Hey." So, I hope you enjoy the show, Lonnie. It's nice to see you in here.
So there was another question I saw out there, and it was dealing with the quarterback situation. And since we're mainly talking about Brett Rypien for the Patriots, and we kind of talked about the Patriots a little bit, I don't think that starting Brett Rypien is the right choice. I know he just won a game, but the issue is that you can't afford the mistakes he made against the Jets, against the Patriots. Bill Belichick will punish you for every single mistake you made. I think that with him starting, I think he needs to have most likely starting. If Drew Lock is healthy enough to play, it's 50-50 right now. Drew Lock will start. But if it is Brett Rypien, then it needs to be a very, very short leash for Brett Rypien before they make the switch to Blake Bortles, because that will be something that you will end up digging yourself a hole that you can't get out of.
I actually wanted to ask you this question when we were talking about Rypien earlier. So in regards to the New England Patriots game, so the New England Patriots on the defensive side of the football, especially this year with Bill Belichick, they're playing a lot of man coverage, especially press man coverage on the outside. What kind of concepts do you think that the Broncos can incorporate with Pat Shurmur that Brett Rypien can take advantage of, given the fact that he is so limited with his arm strength, and you've got to have those tight window throws? What kind of concepts do you think the Broncos can incorporate to give some room there that Brett Rypien can distribute the football to? Because if he's going to have to throw into tight windows, this is going to be a very ugly game for the Broncos.
Yeah. One of the biggest things that you can do to combat press coverage is motion, and Denver is one of the lowest rates of using motion pre-snap. They really need to. If KJ Hamler is, and I'll pound this table until the day I die, that with KJ Hamler, if he's healthy with that hamstring injury that he did re-hurt against the Jets last night, if he's good to go, motion him every single snap he's out there on the field, because you're getting him in motion. You're going to get a good read on the defense. You're going to get a good idea of what the coverage is, and then you can snap the ball when he's still in motion in certain situations, which is giving him a boost to get up to his top speed, and he can have that impact on the offense without even touching the ball. He can clear out the middle. He can take off the top off the defense. He can do all sorts of things. He can open up Noah Fant. He can open up Jerry Jeudy, attacking the middle of the field. He'd actually be a good one to, if you really wanted to get Albert O, you can get really creative with some kind of deeper crossing routes between Albert Okwuegbunam and KJ Hamler. Try to get those safeties a little bit cross-wired a little bit. Just definitely have a lot of options with that. Crossing routes is obviously the easiest one. Do those shallow crossers, get them in the middle, crowd the middle of it, and then hit the guy who comes open out of it. And it's a pretty good read because you're looking down the middle of the field with your peripherals. You should be able to see outside as well. You can kind of adjust a little bit easier for that. That's probably the best way to combat the press coverage that the Patriots run, really.
I think a big thing here, and something that I would really like to see Pat Shurmur incorporate, just regardless, especially given the athleticism up front for the Broncos, is rub route concepts, mesh concepts on the outside, stick concepts and stuff like that. It is really hard to be able to do that, especially with young receivers. And
that was my point. As young as they are at receiver,
as young as they are, you got Deshaun Hamilton can actually probably be the biggest asset there if you're going to run those rub route concepts where you get a slat flat with a stick route over the top to kind of create not really a mesh point, but a way to get some guys running into each other. And Deshaun Hamilton is probably the guy that you want to be able to do that, even though he did run into KJ Hamler against the Steelers on 4th and 2. But still, that's the veteran presence. You got to have a guy that's savvy enough of a route runner to be able to create that pick without making contact with the cornerback in front of you, and then let the athleticism of a Jerry Jeudy or a KJ Hamler come underneath that. And that's where you're going to see that pick route actually happen. Get the ball out quickly in open space and watch those two young guys go. Like, that's, to me, I want to see a lot more of that. Regardless, even against, not even just against the Patriots, I also want to see some more of that read option, man. Jeff Driscoll coming in here and running the read option in the red zone. I have been.
Hey, if they start Blake Bortles, they can do that without even having to sub out their quarterback.
That's true. That is very true. Blake Bortles can move and he can run, and he's actually. And you know what you can also do on that? You can incorporate a corner route, like a go corner route or a slant cross or something like that, where you can incorporate that run pass option. Get Blake Bortles outside of the tackles. If he's got room to run, he can actually run. And if there's something for him to throw, limit the field to one half and say, this is your 2-man read. Whichever one is open, eye your safety. Whichever way the safety goes, you can take a deep shot off of that. And like that's the offensive creativeness that I want to see Pat Shurmur incorporate here, because you've got young quarterbacks limiting the field to one half and limiting their reads and making it so much easier on the quarterback by being able to do so. Pat Shurmur has not been able to do that. He's running straight drop back passing, longer developing routes. There's not really a huge quick passing game to this Broncos offense right now. Last week or at least yesterday was a different thing with Brett Rypien in the fold.
I wouldn't say there isn't to it. I would say that there definitely is. And the issue is, in the case of after Drew Lock got hurt, primarily the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is Jeff Driscoll just held onto the ball. There was a lot of elements for a quick passing game there. Receivers were running routes to get open quickly. Jeff Driscoll just wouldn't throw the ball.
Yeah, and that's a fair thing. Now, we're down here, 48 minutes here.
Real quick, on that note, as I saw people earlier talking about how Denver will have 4 quarterbacks once Drew Lock is back. I wouldn't be shocked at all if I think they'll end up keeping 3 for the rest of the season. But when Drew Lock's back, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Jeff Driscoll's the one to go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would be definitely for that. Blake Bortles, you can hate on him all you want. He's limited athletically. He's not very good with his brain.
He offers more than Driscoll.
He does offer a lot more than Driscoll. And I said limited athletically. I meant limited with his arm talent. He doesn't have very good arm talent. Thank you for grabbing that really fast.
It's actually not that terrible.
It's not.
I wouldn't say it's definitely not tier 1 or tier 2, but it's a solid tier 3.
It's probably,
which is much better than Brett Rypien and Jeff Driscoll. I don't like Jeff Driscoll's arm. No.
I like the ability of Jeff Driscoll to take the top off and let it rip. He's not going to be the accurate guy, and Blake Bortles is not going to be that, but at least Bortles is more accurate than Jeff Driscoll.
So the whole issue is, hey, you can throw it deep, but if you're not dropping into the bucket, it's pointless. You're just throwing a ball away then.
Yep. No, and that is a part of arm talent. Arm strength does not equal arm talent, so you got me on that one. But no, I would actually not disagree with you that if it were up to me, Jeff Driscoll would be on the outside looking in, and because you're going to save a little bit of money. Well, you got some dead money that's going to go to Driscoll, but you've got a cheaper option, veteran option, a guy that can step in and potentially win you some games. I mean, Blake Bortles did go to the AFC Championship game with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he had a bunch of weapons and a great defense to throw to play on the other side. Like, is it impossible for for Blake Bortles to step in and win a couple of games if Drew Lock goes down again? Or if Drew Lock's not ready to play? Let's say that he's lined up and dressed as the backup quarterback against the New England Patriots, and Brett Rypien shows that he's not capable of handling that kind of a situation. You know who I would rather see the Broncos put into the game? Blake Bortles. There's no question. Yeah.
And real quick, Charlie said, I doubt we'll see Lock until after the bye week. It looks like he'll be good to go for Miami. That looks like that'll be the last. If he's not good to go against New England, Miami will be the game that he's back in, which I think is the week after, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah. Yes. It's
New
England, and then in week 6 you have the Miami Dolphins. I believe that game's in Denver as well, and then you go to play, or then you have the Kansas City Chiefs in Denver in week 7. So that's going to be a big thing. I want to just grab this really fast. We didn't get a chance to read it off. Poppy's jumping in here, showing her love and support, as she is want to do one of the Mile High Huddle Mount Rushmore members as well. Great pod as always. Go Broncos with some heart emojis. Poppy, great to see you back in the chat. Now, 51 minutes, Eric, and we really haven't got a chance to talk about what's going on with the Broncos on the defensive side of the football, specifically against the New York Jets.
Well, their defensive line is all in the nursing home.
That's true.
Well, intensive care unit.
Yeah. Here you go. The boss Escobar comes in and says, thoughts on the Sylvester Williams signing? That's a signing out of necessity. Like, really, it is.
Did he actually sign?
I don't know if he actually
I know he
signed.
visited guys, but I mean, granted, I've been doing the pod, so he may have signed while we've been doing this. I actually haven't been on Twitter for a change. Normally when Lance is talking, I'm on Twitter. But I'm scrolling through. I haven't seen anything for sure. But I mean, bringing in Sylvester Williams, I mean, it is a signing out of necessity. I like it. I think he can help, I guess. Like, I mean, you're not going to find a great talent on the defensive line out there right now. And I mean, Sylvester Williams, some of the players.
Yeah. I don't know. To me, it's a depth signing. It's a signing out of necessity, guys. Like, that's really what it is. Kind of like
the scheme's not too different up front from Wade Phillips' defense to Vic Fangio, at least on the defensive line. So, I mean, that helps too. It's not super different.
It's
on the defensive line, just on the defensive line. Just want to make that clear. Just on the defensive line.
Brian Greenfield coming in here. It's hard to deep dive this trash this season. We are at best fifth from the bottom, ? See, I
could always deep dive. Denver could go 0-16. I could find things to deep dive about. And if it's talking about how trash they're doing, I can deep dive on that all day long. I love it.
Watching Broncos football is something. Let me grab this really fast. Watching Broncos football is never going to be a problem for me. I can watch them lose. I will say the one game that I did turn off was Tim Tebow versus Aaron Rodgers at Lambeau Field. That was the one game that I actually turned the TV
I turned off the Tampa Bay game. I didn't watch the second half, guys.
Oh, man.
Hey, I had an excuse. My parents came over. I had to talk to them about stuff, so I have an excuse for it. But that was the last game I turned off. Doesn't happen often.
Now, Brian, I want to just kind of rebut you on this. There is always something to deep dive on. We are the Dove Valley Deep Divers. That's what we do on this show. And
we can deep dive into a practice squad signing like Sylvester Williams.
Literally. There's a depth aspect there. Like that's really all the deep dive you need. The Broncos are so injured up front. Draymond Jones, obviously Jarrell Casey. They brought in Timmy Jernigan like the day before the game. He played one snap, by the way. It's like Draymond Jones, Marcus Walker, Jarrell Casey, they're all nicked up. Shelby Harris was nicked up in the game multiple times, got up slow, didn't work around very well. Mike Purcell was seen wincing on camera multiple times. So you got to have some extra added depth. That was something the Broncos we thought the Broncos were going to have, was great depth on the interior of their defensive line. And it's all erased right now because of injuries. And just because at best fifth from the bottom to Brian's point, I don't agree with that. I really don't. The Broncos are going to get healthy. Sure, they're going to miss Cortland Sutton for the rest of the year. Sure, they're going to miss Von Miller and Jarrell Casey for the rest of this year. That roster is actually fairly well-y built. Like John Elway's got, at least there's some depth to work with. It's very young as well, so you could see some more struggles. But like I said at the opening of the show, just because you're missing some of these star players doesn't mean that the Broncos are dead in the water. Like they're going to get healthy. They're going to get AJ Bouye back. They're going to get Draymond Jones and DeMarcus Walker back. They're going to get Drew Lock and Phillip Lindsay back. Like, no offense.
Hey, New England for Phillip Lindsay.
Yeah, exactly. New England for Phillip Lindsay. AJ Bouye. AJ Bouye is probably going to come back against New England. Oh, wait, no. Sorry.
No.
Miami. Excuse me. I meant what I knew.
Miami or Casey is when it looks like he'll be back.
Still, there's a lot of players that the Broncos have that are not playing right now, and they are still remaining competitive. Outside of the Tampa Bay game, because Jeff Driscoll was so abhorrently bad, like, be honest here. Outside of that, the Tampa Bay game, the Broncos have remained competitive in every single game that they have played, including games against the 3-0 Titans. and the 3-0 Steelers, both of whom are leading their divisions right now. They are both going to be playoff teams. And the Broncos had opportunities to win both of those games. They blew out the Jets. Don't let the final score indicate like that is not an indication of what actually happened last night. 37-28, not nearly as close to what the actual outcome of the game should have been. Like the Broncos should have put up 50 against the Jets last night. They really should have. 3 interceptions, 2 of them in the fourth quarter. That's what changed the course of that game to where the Jets actually got to remain in it and almost tie the game and then almost take the lead. The Broncos are a lot better than their record, their 1-3 record would indicate. And if they can come out and they get some lucky bounces going the right way against New England, they get the Miami Dolphins, who are not playing great football. They're playing okay. They're not playing great football. You can go into the Week 7 game against Kansas City at 3-3 and look at where 3-3 sounds a lot better than 1-3.
Yeah,
it really does. This team is not far off from being competitive, and we're going to figure out a way to deep dive on everything that we can do.
Yeah, so let's get to this, and then there's a couple comments here I want to rapid fire off real quick before we get out of here. Trace Wallner, thank you for your $5 donation. He says, hey, fellas, do you think cutting Todd Davis was the right move based on Jules' performance so far? No, because I think that leading up to this, there's definitely been communication issues, and that falls more on Alexander Johnson having the green dot. He's not getting people lined up in the right spot, and I think that is part of the problem that the Broncos have been having on defense. And then Steve Baumgartner says, per Mike Kliss, the Broncos are signing Williams and Kilgo to the practice squad. Hey man, I like it. I liked what Kilgo showed. I never got why he just got passed around. Zini official says Jewel looked great. Jewel did. He did definitely his best game of the year of his career.
I actually have that exact same thing written down right here because I wanted to get to the defensive side of the football. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. Josie Jewell had one of the best coverage games of his career against the Jets. He looked phenomenal in coverage. He was also very good against the. I wouldn't
say phenomenal. He looked good. There was a couple plays where he definitely was out of position, and he's thankful that it wasn't seen, that the quarterback either didn't have the time to look his way or just flat out didn't look his way or went elsewhere. But yeah, he was all right. Great against the run and great as a blitzer. I think that the part of the Broncos' issues, and somebody else made this comment about using 6 defensive backs. What Vic Fangio was when he was saying that he was talking about using that to cover up for the issues of covering from the linebacker position, and it's definitely still in play because neither Alexander Johnson or Josie Jewell have really emerged as that cover guy, and it's definitely leading to issues for it. Brian Weatherback said,
Sorry, go ahead and pull that back. Sorry.
Said, mow the yard is better than watching the second half of Tampa Bay game. Hey, what made the first half bearable for me to watch was I was working on draft stuff.
Yeah, and it was pretty ugly game. Kenneth Patterson coming in here, and I really want to pull this comment because 37 offensive points. When's the last time that we could say that? I actually heard a very interesting statistic on 104.3 The Fan this morning from Mike Evans. 37 offensive points is the 4th highest scoring total for the Broncos since Peyton Manning retired. They had 45 against the Cardinals, 42 against I can't remember who, 38 last year with Drew Lock against the Houston Texans, and 37 last night against the New York Jets. Literally the 4th highest scoring output by the Broncos with a 3rd-string quarterback that threw 3 interceptions, guys. Like, if that doesn't tell you exactly how bad the Broncos beat the hell out of the Jets last night, I don't know what to tell you because it was – 37-28 is not anywhere close to what was actually indicative of what happened on the field. And sure, the Broncos got some lucky breaks and they took advantage of some costly penalties and just beat up on a bad Jets team. But man, like that, it was complete and utter domination. And from a team that everyone was saying, this is the worst team in football right now because they have so many injuries. They're going to lose to the Jets. They're going to be in line for the number 1 overall pick.
You were one of them.
I was, and I will say that I was. But then I thought about it again yesterday, and that was kind of where I came in. It's like, wait, this is a trap. Everyone's saying the Broncos are going to suck. They're going to be terrible. Their season's over, especially if they lose to the Jets. And so many people picked the Jets. I picked the Broncos in a 19-12 victory. I didn't think it was going to be a 37-point offensive shootout for the Broncos. I didn't think it was going to be that great of a game for the Broncos. I did pick them to win, but at the same time, I did say, you know what? If they do lose this game, they're done. They are literally done. Then I thought about it again. I was like, you know what? Don't fall into the trap. Don't fall into the trap of the media saying that with all your injuries, you're done. Don't fall in the trap of the media saying you're starting your third string quarterback right now in his first career start on a short week and an East Coast primetime game. Don't fall into that trap. Because if you go out and you play smash mouth Broncos football like they did, you're going to walk away with a victory and you're going to turn your season around based on this game alone. And I know that sounds crazy for me to say that. It was a must-win game for the Broncos. And if they do have any hopes of getting themselves into the playoffs, this is where the turnaround starts. Absolutely. Going and handling business against a team that you know you're better than. Plain and simple.
Yeah. It's going to be fun, guys. We got to get out of here, though. Time's running out for us. Next week, we are going to be back, and we're actually going to really be able to dig into the Patriots game and kind of recap this Jets game a little bit and how it can apply to the Patriots. But, guys, that's going to do it for us. Go ahead and take it and finish it off, Lance.
Yeah, thank you guys for joining the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. You guys can follow us on Twitter by hitting me at Sanderson MHH, and for Erick at Erick Trickel. Also follow at DVDD_pod. That's the podcast count. Easiest way to keep up with what's going on with the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. Follow at Mile High Huddle for instant news and analysis, breaking news, film articles, and opinion articles from your favorite Mile High Huddle staff writers on your Denver Broncos. If you guys are in a position financially and able to do so, head over to huddleuppod.com. Get your merch. Get yourself a hat. Get yourself a T-shirt. There's something to suit your fancy, guys. Seriously, it's a great way to support the show. And if you're not in a financial position and able to do so, the three things that everybody should be doing by this point, I've preached it for the last few months now, and so is everybody else on all the other shows. Subscribe wherever you're watching, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. It does not matter. Subscribe to Mile High Huddle. Like every video you guys see, and if you love it, share it. Get it in front of as many Broncos fans as humanly possible. Help us grow. That's the easiest way to help the show grow. Now, Erick, no Broncos football this week. We got some college football tomorrow and then a full slate of NFL games on Sunday. Any big plans? Are you going to plant your butt down and finish on your scouting reports? Well, your scouting list, I should say. Is anything else going on this weekend for you?
I'm actually got a bunch of stuff that I'm behind on that I got to get done for my huddle. I'm going to work on busting that stuff out, and I'm going to work on finishing up my scouting list for the college season and everything, and start getting down to really scouting these guys. I mean, I've done a lot of work from last season, but it's time to get into what's happening this season for those that have been currently playing.
Right.
So that's kind of what it's going to be. I don't watch live college football. I always watch replays of it, and it's going to be a fun, busy weekend for me.
Yeah, I actually have a busy weekend as well. My grandma from Montana is down at my folks' place this weekend. My uncle's birthday was earlier this week. So me and Samantha and the boys are going to drive down to my hometown and go spend the weekend with my folks so that my uncle and my grandma can meet Kaven for the first time. So it's going to be a fun weekend, and we're going to have a lot of fun with it. I'm not really going to focus on anything much outside of that. We'll see what happens. We'll see how it actually plays out. But anyways, guys, thank you all for joining the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. You all stay safe, take care, and have a great weekend. And we will see you guys next week, same time, same place. Mile High Insiders tomorrow, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Catch up with Nick and Luke. We'll see you guys later.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.